Imagine finding out the lifeline you've trusted, like to save you from falling, is actually a leash. And it's being pulled by the monster in the dark.
Oh, man. That is a terrifying image.
Right, you are dangling over the edge, just completely dependent on that tension holding you up, only to realize the thing anchoring you isn't a mountain. Well, it's something monstrous that just hasn't decided to reel you in yet.
And that tension transforms instantly from salvation into captivity. I mean, the very mechanism designed to keep you alive becomes the instrument of your imprisonment.
Exactly, and that horrifying realization is our mission today. Welcome to this deep dive where we are going to completely shatter the foundation of the Empyrean series for you.
We really are. We're pulling apart a truly mind-bending literary theory today.
Yeah, it's from Hellion's Book Nook, and it's all regarding the true, terrifying nature of the dragon rider bond when dark magic enters the equation.
Right, which changes everything we know about this world.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading through this theory didn't just change my view of the villains, it entirely shifted my perspective on who the true victims of this universe actually are.
Yeah, and the victims aren't necessarily the ones we see falling in battle,
Yeah.
Today, our focus isn't really on the dark magic of the Venin themselves. We aren't just looking at how they drain the earth or the terrifying wyvern they create.
Right, the mindless beasts.
Exactly. Instead, we're analyzing the horrifying psychological and magical imprisonment of the dragons. The theory posits that the dragons, the most powerful beings in this universe, are actually being taken hostage from the inside out.
Which is just wild to think about, but to really grasp the weight of this, I think we need to look at the baseline assumptions the entire fandom has been operating under, right?
Absolutely. We need to set the stage.
So we've always treated the magic system as having these distinct lanes. Venin drain magic from the earth to defy death, and they use that corrupted power to create wyvern. Meanwhile, riders bond with dragons to channel magic cleanly.
Right, for survival and power.
Yeah. And we all universally assumed that if a bonded rider broke the rules and pulled magic from the earth, turning Venin, that dark magic would act like a corrosive acid on the bond.
That was the general consensus, yeah.
It would either automatically snap the connection to their dragon or instantly corrupt the dragon into a mindless wyvern maker.
Because the community operated on the logic of mutual exclusivity. Light and dark magic just couldn't occupy the same conduit. I mean, the assumption was always that the Dragon Rider bond was this sacred, pure connection that would intrinsically reject the rot of Venin magic.
Right, like if the rider's soul rots, the bond has to break.
Exactly. But enter the bombshell from the third read-through of Iron Flame.
Oh man, this part got me.
Yeah, the author of the Hellion's Book Nook theory points directly at the infirmary scene with Jack Barlowe. When Jack is being mended, Taryn drops a revelation that completely rewrites the rules. He states that Jack's dragon, Baide, knew exactly what Jack was becoming.
Wait, like knew everything?
Everything. Baide was fully aware that her rider was pulling from the earth and turning into a Venin.
And the devastating part is what Baide didn't do. I mean, she didn't sever the bond. She didn't burn him to ash. She just stayed.
She stayed.
It's like finding out the state-of-the-art security system you installed to keep monsters out of your house is actually the very thing locking you inside the house with them.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
But I have to push back here because this is where my brain just short-circuited a bit. Dragons are centuries old, right?
Oh, absolutely. Ancient.
They are apex predators, infinitely more powerful than humans. I just have a hard time believing a human teenager could just silence an ancient dragon. How is that mechanically possible in this universe? Why didn't Baide just leave? Is the bond literally unbreakable?
Well, what's fascinating here is the magical physics the theory proposes to answer that very question.
Okay, lay it on me.
So we have to look at how the conduit actually works. Normally, magic flows one way, from the dragon down the bond to the rider. The dragon is the source and the rider is the vessel.
Right, that's the established rule.
But when a rider turns Venin, they pull infinite, chaotic magic directly from the earth. And this essentially reverses the polarity of the bond.
Wait, reverses the polarity?
Exactly. Instead of the dragon feeding the rider, this overwhelming corrupted earth magic floods the rider and forces its way up the bond. It acts as a magical paralytic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Baide didn't leave because she mechanically and magically couldn't. The earth magic suffocated her internal magic, hijacking the conduit and turning her into a prisoner in her own mind.
So the venin magic acts as a gag and a shackle simultaneously. That is horrifying. And that forces us to completely reevaluate the free will debate within this universe.
It really does.
Because we've been sold this romanticized idea of the bond as a mutual partnership, right? Two souls intertwined for survival and glory.
A beautiful alliance.
Yeah, but if the polarity can be reversed to paralyze the dragon, the bond isn't just a partnership. It's a potential prison cell waiting to be locked.
And it strips away the core identity of what a dragon is. I mean, these are fiercely independent, proud creatures who view humans as fragile, fleeting beings.
Right, they tolerate humans at best.
Exactly. So to be legally and magically bound to a rider who has succumbed to the very corruption dragons have spent their entire existence fighting, it's the ultimate degradation. They aren't just losing their autonomy, they're being weaponized against their own kind.
Just imagine the psychological horror of that.
Yeah.
You are this ancient, majestic beast, and suddenly you are just a battery strapped to a corrupted soul. You're forced to watch through your own eyes as your rider commits atrocities.
It's an absolute nightmare.
And that makes me wonder, if turned humans remain bonded to their dragons, forced into this subservience, could this entire system be a venin trap?
Ooh, that's a dark thought.
Think about the Writer's Quadrant. They funnel hundreds of kids in, tell them to bond a dragon to become a hero, but what if the bond itself was designed, or at least co-opted, as a weapon to systematically enslave dragons?
Well, the implications for the military structure of Navarre are catastrophic, if that's true. If a Venin can hide within the ranks, anchored by a silenced dragon, the enemy isn't just at the borders.
Right, they're inside the house.
The enemy is integrated into the very foundation of their defenses. Because remember, the dragons are the only thing keeping the wards up.
Oh, right. The wars.
If you want to take down the wards, you don't attack the magic from the outside. You corrupt the riders from the inside, paralyze the dragons, and turn the power source off.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because we can't talk about this parasitic hostage dynamic without talking about the elephant in the room. Xaden, yes. He has officially pulled from the earth. He has turned venin. He has entered his villain era. And his dragon, Sgaeyl, is the polar opposite of Baide.
Completely different league.
She is a powerhouse. She is ruthless, deeply independent, and fiercely protective of Xaden.
And that means Sgaeyl represents an unprecedented anomaly in this theory. Baide was a relatively weaker dragon who was overpowered and silenced, a passive prisoner to Jack's corruption.
Yeah, she just kind of took it.
But Sgaeyl's willpower is legendary. She's permanently tethered to a rider who has now introduced that corrupted earth magic into their shared conduit. The moral and magical dilemma she faces is just staggering.
It's a total nightmare scenario, because she doesn't just have to fight the dark magic, she has to fight the person she loves who is wielding it. Do you think she'll attempt to actively purify Xaden's bond from the inside out?
I mean, that is the ultimate question of her agency right now. Will she act as an internal immune system constantly battling the venin rot trying to travel up the bond? Or is she, despite all her raw power and pride, destined to become the next tragic hostage?
I can't even imagine her as a hostage.
It's hard to picture. And the tragedy is compounded by her mating bond with Tarn.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
Right. If the venin magic reverses the polarity and paralyzes Sgaeyl, does that dark magic then bleed across the mating bond into Tarn? The corruption of one rider could theoretically take down the two most powerful dragons on the continent.
That contrast in the emotional burden is heartbreaking. You have Baide, representing the absolute subjugation of the dragon spirit, just silent and trapped.
Just a vessel.
Yeah. And then you have Sgaeyl, who might represent an active, violent resistance, fighting a losing battle from within the bond itself. It's like she's trapped inside a burning building, but instead of trying to break a window and escape, she's desperately trying to put up the fire with her bare hands because she refuses to abandon the person who lit the match.
Wow, that captures the tragedy perfectly. She is fighting her own instincts to protect the source of the danger.
It's so sad.
It really is. And observing this complication with Xaden forces us to look backward at the text, specifically at other strange anomalies that defy the established rule of life and death in this universe.
Like what?
Well, if the rules about the bond severing upon corruption are a lie, the entire mechanical foundation of their magic system is suspect.
Which brings us to the massive paradox with Jack and Baide. Because Jack didn't just turn venin and hide it, he died. A mountain literally collapsed on him.
Completely crushed.
Right. And the foundational rule of the Writer's Quadrant is that if a writer dies, the dragon lives. But the bond is severed, the magic stops.
That's what they teach everyone.
Yet Baide survived, which checks out, but then Jack is somehow mended and brought back from the dead, and when he comes back, Baide is still tethered to him. How does a magical contract survive death?
Well, the theory suggests that Venin magic doesn't just hijack the conduit. It fundamentally alters the metaphysical nature of the bond.
Okay, how so?
It anchors the dragon not to the rider's mortal life force, but to the immortal, corrupted earth magic sustaining the rider.
Oh my god. I know this is a bit of dark humor, but it's like a cursed Bluetooth pairing that you absolutely cannot delete.
A Bluetooth pairing. I love that.
You know when your phone keeps auto-connecting to a speaker in the other room? No matter how many times you hit forget device.
Oh, it's the worst. It just keeps reconnecting.
Yes, imagine that, but you've literally smashed the speaker with a hammer, thrown it into a river, buried it, and your phone is still trying to stream to the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
The connection is just perpetually active, bypassing every normal mechanism of disconnection.
That dark humor is actually highly appropriate because it highlights the complete lack of user control. The dragon is the phone in your analogy, desperately trying to disconnect from a destroyed device, but overridden by a malicious operating system.
Malicious OS, exactly.
And we see glimpses of this rot in other anomalies, too. Look at Varish and his dragon, Solus.
Yes, Varish. He is this sadistic, rule-breaking instructor. And we don't have hard confirmation that Varish was Venin, but Solus's behavior was completely unhinged.
Absolutely unhinged.
Yeah.
Solus exhibited behavior that deeply violated the natural order of dragons. Dragons are supposed to be discerning, majestic creatures.
Right, they have a code.
But Solus acted like a rabid animal. He was burning cadets unprovoked, losing an eye, just operating with this erratic, violent malice that mirrored Varish's sadism perfectly.
It's like the writer's personality infected the dragon.
Exactly. It proves that the bond is a two-way street for psychological rot. When a writer's soul is corrupted, whether by pulling earth magic or just through pure, unchecked sadism, that rot travels up the conduit.
And it degrades the dragon's majesty.
Right. It suggests the bond operates on ancient, unwritten terms and conditions that the human writers, and perhaps even the dragons themselves, just don't fully comprehend the dangers of.
And because humanity doesn't understand the true terms and conditions of this magical contract, they are just marching blindly into a wood chipper.
A literal wood chipper.
Which forces us to ask the most massive, world-altering question of this entire deep dive. If these dark bond mechanics exist, and if Baide could be silenced so effectively, it means the entire recorded history of this world could be built on a lie.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to interrogate the silence of the Empyrean, the dragon leadership.
Yeah, why are they so quiet?
The text continuously reminds us that dragons are ancient, wise, and highly communicative with each other. If Baide knew Jack was Venin, and Sgaeyl knows Xaden is Venin, are we really supposed to believe that in the hundreds of years of Navarre's history, no other dragon has ever been bound to a corrupted rider?
Wait, I mean, that completely reframes everything.
It really does.
If dragons have secretly known about this Venin corruption within their own ranks for generations, what does that imply about the historical wars? We've been reading this series thinking it's a story about human politics, human borders, and human greed.
Just typical human conflict.
But what if these wars have actually been shaped by hidden, corrupted bond dynamics? What if historical figures we thought were heroes were actually Venin, and their dragons were just silently trapped, forced to help them conquer?
It fundamentally questions the dragon's true motives. I mean, consider the wards themselves. We are taught that the dragons helped weave the magical wards to protect humanity from the Venin.
Right, it was this great alliance.
But if a Venin can hijack a dragon's mind and body through the bond, maybe the wards were never about protecting humans at all.
Wait, you think the dragons built the wards to protect themselves?
It makes complete logical sense. The Venin view dragons as the ultimate power source. If you are a dragon, the most terrifying thing in the world isn't a human with a sword.
No, it's a human who can reverse the polarity of your magic.
Exactly. A human who can turn you into a slave. The dragons might have orchestrated the creation of Navarre, the wards, and the Riders Quadrant, not as an alliance, but as a quarantine zone.
Oh my god, a quarantine zone.
They are managing a centuries-old cover-up because they are terrified of what happens if the general human population figures out how easily the bond can be weaponized against them.
That is a staggering paradigm shift. The dragons aren't these benevolent guardians granting magic to worthy humans. They're desperately trying to manage a failing containment strategy.
That's exactly what it is.
They need humans to fight the Venin, but by bonding humans, they expose their only vulnerability. It's a massive civilization-level catch-22.
And it perfectly explains why the Empyrean is so incredibly secretive and ruthless when it comes to the rules. Any deviation, any hint of corruption is met with immediate execution.
They don't mess around.
No, because they aren't just enforcing military discipline. They are frantically trying to prevent a systemic infection that could wipe out their entire species' free will.
Man. So what does this all mean for the story moving forward? Let's recap the massive cognitive shifts we've uncovered from this theory today. First, we have to fundamentally reevaluate the victims of this war. The Venin's greatest atrocity isn't just draining the land, it's the systematic, silent hijacking of the dragons they take hostage through the bond. Second, we've exposed the horrifying reality that the sacred dragon rider bond might completely lack free will once dark magic reverses the conduit's polarity.
And third, we have the ticking time bomb of Xaden and Sgaeyl. We're no longer just worried about Xaden losing his soul. We are watching a horrific psychological battle where one of the most powerful dragons in existence is tethered to a sinking ship.
Yeah, she is forced to either somehow purify the dark magic from the inside or succumb to the paralysis that trapped Baide. And finally, we have the historical cover-up. The realization that the entire structure of Navarre might just be a dragon-designed quarantine zone to protect themselves from being enslaved by their own riders.
This theory completely changes how you will read the next chapter of this series. It really makes you realize that the real monsters aren't just the mindless wyverns screeching in the sky. The true horror lies in the systemic, invisible chains holding the entire magic system together. It shifts your perspective from looking at the obvious threats to interrogating the hidden power dynamics of the world itself.
It really makes you question every single interaction between a rider and their dragon from page 1. Like, who is actually holding the leash and who is wearing the collar?
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the shadows of the Empyrean. But before you go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Something that builds on the terrifying mechanics we've explored today.
The implications really are endless, but there's one thread we haven't pulled yet.
Yeah. If the Dragon Rider bond was truly created to protect this world, but we now know the magical mechanics of that bond allow a human to legally and forcefully enslave a dragon the moment they pull from the earth, is it possible the very concept of the bond wasn't a gift from the light at all? If the architecture of the conduit is so perfectly designed to be hijacked by dark magic, what if that lifeline we talked about at the very beginning was actually designed, braided, and handed to humanity by the Venin all along?
Now, that is a chilling thought. A system built not for defense, but for eventual total harvest.
Keep your eyes open and question the magic you trust. Until next time.